Australia, the smallest continent and one of the largest countries on Earth, lying between the Pacific and Indian Oceans in the southern hemisphere. Australia's capital is Canberra, located in the southeast between the larger and more important economic and cultural centres of Sydney and Melbourne. Australia is a sovereign country comprising the mainland of the Australian continent, the island of Tasmania, and numerous smaller islands. 13. It is the largest country by area in Oceania and the world's sixth largest country. Australia's population of nearly 26 million, in an area of 7,617,930 square kilometers, 2,941,300 square miles, 14, is highly urbanized and heavily concentrated on the eastern seaboard. 15. Canberra is the nation's capital, while the largest city is Sydney, and other major metropolitan areas are Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, and Adelaide. Human habitation of the Australian continent is known to have begun at least 65,000 years ago, 4647, with the migration of people by land bridges and short sea crossings from what is now Southeast Asia. 48. The Majid B rock shelter in Arnhem Land is recognized as the oldest site showing the presence of humans in Australia. 49. The oldest human remains found are the Lake Munga remains, which have been dated to around 41,000 years ago. 50-51, these people were the ancestors of modern Indigenous Australians. 52. Aboriginal Australian culture is one of the oldest continual cultures on Earth. The first recorded European sighting of the Australian mainland, and the first recorded European landfall on the Australian continent, are attributed to the Dutch. 61. The first ship and crew to chart the Australian coast and meet with Aboriginal people was the De Eifken, captained by Dutch navigator Willem Jans Zoon. 62. He sighted the coast of Cape York Peninsula in early 1606, and made landfall on February 26, 1606 at the Penfather River near the modern town of Weipa on Cape York. 63. Later that year, Spanish explorer Luis Vaz de Torres sailed through, and navigated, Torres Strait Islands. 64. The Dutch charted the whole of the western and northern coastlines and named the island continent New Holland during the 17th century, and although no attempt at settlement was made, 63, a number of shipwrecks left men either stranded or, as in the case of the Batavia in 1629, marooned for mutiny and murder, thus becoming the first Europeans to permanently inhabit the continent. 65. William Dampier, an English explorer and privateer, landed on the northwest coast of New Holland in 1688, while serving as a crewman under pirate Captain John Reed 66, and again in 1699 on a return trip. 67. In 1770, James Cook sailed along and mapped the east coast, which he named New South Wales and claimed for Great Britain. 68. With the loss of its American colonies in 1783, the British government sent a fleet of ships, the First Fleet, under the command of Captain Arthur Phillip, to establish a new penal colony in New South Wales. A camp was set up and the Union flag raised at Sydney Cove, Port Jackson, on January 26, 1788, 6970, a date which later became Australia's National Day, Australia Day. Most early convicts were transported for petty crimes and assigned as labourers or servants upon arrival. While the majority settled into colonial society once emancipated, convict rebellions and uprisings were also staged, but invariably suppressed under martial law. The 1808 Drum Rebellion, the only successful armed takeover of government in Australia, instigated a 2-year period of military rule. A wealthy country, Australia has a market economy, a high GDP per capita, and a relatively low rate of poverty. In terms of average wealth, Australia ranked second in the world after Switzerland from 2013 until 2018. 242. In 2018, Australia overtook Switzerland and became the country with the highest average wealth. 242. Australia's relative poverty rate is 13.6%. 243. It was identified by the Credit Suisse Research Institute as the nation with the highest median wealth in the world and the second highest average wealth per adult in 2013. 244. The Australian dollar is the currency for the nation, including Christmas Island, Cocos, Keeling Islands, and Norfolk Island, as well as the independent Pacific Island states of Kiribati, Nauru, and Tuvalu. With the 2006 merger of the Australian Stock Exchange and the Sydney Futures Exchange, the Australian Securities Exchange became the 9th largest in the world. ranked 5th in the Index of Economic Freedom, 2017, 246. Australia is the world's 13th largest economy and has the 10th highest per capita GDP, nominal, at $55,692. 247, the country was ranked 3rd in the United Nations 2017 Human Development Index. 248, Melbourne reached top spot for the 4th year in a row on The Economist's 2014 list of the world's most livable cities. 249, followed by Adelaide, Sydney, and Perth in the 5th, 7th, and 9th places respectively. Total government debt in Australia is about 990 billion Australian dollars, 250–20% of GDP in 2010. 251, Australia has among the highest house prices and some of the highest household debt levels in the world. 252, an emphasis on exporting commodities rather than manufactured goods has underpinned a significant increase in Australia's terms of trade since the start of the 21st century, due to rising commodity prices. Australia has a balance of payments that is more than 7% of GDP negative, and has had persistently large current account deficits for more than 50 years. 253, Australia has grown at an average annual rate of 3.6% for over 15 years, in comparison to the annual average of 2.5%. 253, Australia was the only advanced economy not to experience a recession due to the global financial downturn in 2008 to 2009. 254, however, the economies of 6 of Australia's major trading partners were in recession, which in turn affected Australia, significantly hampering its economic growth. 255–256, from 2012 to early 2013, Australia's national economy grew, but some non-mining states and Australia's non-mining economy experienced recession. In 2020, the Australian Council of Social Service released a report stating that relative poverty was growing in Australia, with an estimated 3.2 million people, or 13.6% of the population, living below an internationally accepted relative poverty threshold of 50% of a country's median income. It also estimated that there were 774,000, 17.7%, children under the age of 15 in relative poverty. In 2003, Australia's energy sources were coal, 58.4%, hydropower, 19.1%, natural gas, 13.5%, liquid gas fossil fuel switching plants, 5.4%, oil, 2.9%, and other renewable resources like wind power, solar energy, and bioenergy. During the 21st century, Australia has been trending to generate more energy using renewable resources and less energy using fossil fuels. In 2020, Australia used coal for 62% of all energy, 3.6% increase compared to 2013, wind power for 9.9%, 9.5% increase, natural gas for 9.9%, 3.6% decrease, solar power for 9.9%, 9.8% increase, hydropower for 6.4%, 12.7% decrease, bioenergy for 1.4%, 1.2% increase, and other sources like oil and waste coal mine gas for 0.5%. 340–343, in August 2009, Australia's government set a goal to achieve 20% of all energy in the country from renewable sources by 2020. 344, they achieved this goal, as renewable resources accounted for 27.7% of Australia's energy in 2020. Since 1788, the primary influence behind Australian culture has been Anglo-Celtic Western culture, with some indigenous influences. 346–347, the divergence and evolution that has occurred in the ensuing centuries has resulted in a distinctive Australian. The culture of the United States has served as a significant influence, particularly through television and cinema. Other cultural influences come from neighboring Asian countries, and through large-scale immigration from non-English-speaking nations. Sport is an important part of Australia that dates back to the early colonial period. Australian rules cricket, football, rugby league, rugby union. The national animal of Australia is red kangaroo. It belongs to the family of Macropodidae, a class of Mammalia and kingdom of Animalia. Australia's national animal kangaroo is one of the largest types of kangaroo species and native to Australia. The common theory is that the kangaroo is not particularly good at walking backward, so they are the national animal of Australia that reflects the determination to move forward as a nation. Australia has the world's largest herd of wild camels, and lakhs of them roam in the wild. The Gulf is fed up with these camels, who aren't native to Australia, and has declared them to be a pest. There are many breeds of dairy cows in Australia. Holstein, Jersey and Aussie Red are the most popular, and all have distinctive characteristics.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.